Ellettsville Plan Commission for March 5th, 2020. Would you like to lead us in the presentation?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Denise, roll call, please.
Sandra Hatch,
Here.
Terry Baker,
Here.
Don Calvert,
Here.
David Dre,
Here.
Pam Sample, here, Dan Swafford,
Here.
Pat Wesolowski.
Here.
Has everyone had the opportunity to review the minutes of the February 6th meeting? If so, I would call for a motion.
So moved. Approval. Second.
Roll call, or all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, I think it's a routine item that we ask the Plan Commission if there's any conflict of interest with any of the items that is on the agenda tonight. Hearing none, we will proceed to new business, the development plan for a multifamily senior housing project, 90,000 square feet, 5665 West State Road 46. Petitioner Hayden Lockhart on behalf of Allied Real Estate Partners, LLC. Case number PC 20-04.
Good evening. This is first of two development plan requests tonight. Both are for low-income senior housing, little different projects. This one, well, we'll start with this one, I guess, since that's what's on the screen. Governor Park, which would be located on the site of Lindsay Hayes Trailer Park. They are requesting to build a 3-story, 90-unit senior housing apartment building. Building be I already said that, 3 stories tall, about 45 feet, which meets our code, and contains 71 bedroom and 22 bedroom units. They have received a variance to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 2 per unit to 1 per unit, and they do meet that requirement in their site plan. The property is zoned C3 general commercial, and since this is a continuation of the current multifamily residential use of the property, it is a permitted use. The Technical Review Committee met on February 20th to review this plan, and comments from that meeting were sent out. They've been addressed. There are no issues there. All the legal requirements have been met, and staff does recommend approval of the development plan, and I'll go through some of the specifics. This is a general location within the current Lindsay Hayes area that it would be built on. Any of the trailers that are not livable will be removed, and those that are in livable condition will be relocated over to the eastern part of their property. I don't know the exact number of that, but somewhere in between 10 and 20, I think, is what it was going to come down to. Here's a picture of the site plan. I hope everyone's had a chance to look at the building, be it L-shaped. This is State Road 46 to the north, and then you have the commercial buildings. This does sit down quite a bit lower than the back of the buildings. Landscape plan just shows where all the trees and other things will go on there. I'll discuss that a little bit more in the next section. Elevations showing what the finished product will look like. This would be if you're looking at it from back towards the creek, and 43 would be behind it, or 46, whatever. Whatever road that is out there. And this is a closer view. This is looking almost due north, I believe. And I can go back to any of those later on. I do want to go over quickly the Plan Commission criteria, of which there are 11. First is the compatibility of the development plan with surrounding land uses. I mean, it's been residential for years, so this should not pose a problem. Actually, should make it a little more organized. Compatibility of the development plan with the comprehensive plan. The Lindsay Hayes area is actually called out specifically in our comp plan for redevelopment, and we also spoke highly of senior housing and affordable housing. This checks all of those boxes. So staff believes that would constitute compatibility. Adequate provisions for internal management of traffic. There'll be a new road built and upgrades to one of the roads coming in from the west, which should adequately handle traffic. They don't expect a large number of traffic daily due to it being a senior facility. And there will be some, but less than you would expect out of a normal multifamily complex. Capacity of adjacent streets to ensure that they can handle traffic. It's on a state road. Doesn't really get much better than that. Provisions for public facilities and infrastructure. Any infrastructure has been reviewed and will be included as necessary. Same with on-site management of stormwater and erosion control. Those have already been reviewed and approved. Provisions for the allocation of land for streets, parks, schools, other semi-public buildings. This will not create any new public roads. It will become a named road sooner or later with separate addresses for the apartment building. Because currently everything now is addressed off of State Road 46, and since the front door for this is actually going to be facing south, that may constitute some issues, and that will be figured out sometime in the next month or so. They will be including a community garden, dog park, and some trails around their building. Don't necessarily know if those are public, but those will be on site. Maybe if someone asks nicely, they can use them. Adequate provision for green space and landscaping, that was approved as part of tech review. We don't have specific landscaping requirements, so what they have looked good. No buffering is required. No limestone structures were affected. And sidewalks are shown, they're actually 6 foot wide sidewalks, which is a little wider than we require. That's not a bad thing. Are shown throughout the project. And there's already sidewalks on 46, so there's easy accessibility. And just a couple photos. Top right picture is the entrance going down in. This is from the same location looking straight south towards the existing trailers. This is farther down that drive, and this green space and this general area where the new apartments will be located. And this picture was taken from about this spot right here, looking back to the north, kind of showing how you can't see a whole lot up there because of the difference in elevation. And that is all I have on that. I can answer any questions. The petitioner is also here, as is Rick Kopic, or any other questions that I can't or don't want to answer.
What exactly is the definition of low-income senior housing?
I don't remember exactly what it was, because this is something that they've been trying to approve for several years. I want to say it's 50%, part of it's 50% of the median income, and part of it's 80% of the median income. Hey.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Yvonne with Allied.
It's
Sign
on,
in.
will you sign in also?
Good afternoon. I'm Yvonne with Allied Affordable Housing. We're the ones who have been working on these projects in collaboration with the city and a few other partners for over 3 or 4 years now. So the definition of low-income housing would, as it pertains to this low-income housing tax credit project, is any household that is at 60% area median income or below. We do have approximately 25% of the units that'll be allocated towards those who would qualify for Section 8 vouchers. So that actually is more for 50% area median income. What we have found is that the majority of the seniors in the area would qualify within this because they usually rely primarily on Social Security and other minimal income. So that's
So what age do we consider as senior?
for this particular project, we are doing 55 and over.
Oh, wow, I could live there.
Normally, there's some projects that actually do 62 years and older. For this particular, for Governor Park, it's 55.
Okay.
There'll be no children there?
I'm sorry?
No children?
There can be if there are grandchildren that live with the seniors. We do have a set aside for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but really the primary resident is 55 plus, and it's only 1 and 2 bedrooms, so we expect that there will not be any children. It's not something that for fair housing that we can necessarily put there, that if they have children, that they wouldn't qualify, but based on the target population, we don't anticipate having many children.
It's gonna be 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms?
Correct, 71 bedrooms and 22
Okay,
bedrooms.
how do we, or who does, or how many people can be in 1 bedroom and how many can be in 2 bedroom, and who checks that?
So the property management company needs to qualify the family or the individual who will be living there, so they need to come in and give a list of who is in that household. It's actually the requirements for these rental housing tax credits is that there be 1 to 2 people in 1 bedrooms and no more than 3 people in a 2 bedroom. Correct.
How long does the low-income status stay with the project? Is it forever, or is there a time that drops?
It's actually right now where the state has some requirements that it be, the compliance period for these rental housing tax credits is 15 years. However, a lot of times what the state will do is they require at least 40 years.
Okay. And I do think this will be a much improved over what's currently there.
Will this be managed by the Senior Citizens Housing Board like our other senior citizens housing?
So the property management company will be Hayes Gibson Property Services, of which Allied is also a part of. However, Area 10 on Aging is one of our partners, and they'll be providing services. So we'll be working really closely with them to provide services as well as referrals, because we have been working with them and the waiting list that they have to work in collaboration and address those housing needs.
Is there any other questions from the board? Is there any questions from the public?
I got one question. Kevin, did you say the building was going to, the front of the building won't face 46?
No, it's going to be, the back of it will be facing 46, because, which you won't be able to see anyway
That's what I
where
was
it
going to
sits.
ask you about, the height versus the 3rd story versus 46. You won't be able to see it over the buildings, or?
If you do, you're not going to see very much of it. I don't know exactly what the...
Yeah, you know, when you turn
difference
into the park,
Mm-hmm.
okay, by the body shop there,
Yeah.
all right? Are you going to be able to see any of the building from that? Because there's nothing in front besides that body shop.
It's going to be back, when you pull in by the body shop, it's going to be tucked back towards the other corner,
But-
going back east. So you're
Yeah,
not going
but
to see
will we
it.
be able to see that from the road?
Not much.
Will it be behind the Realty or behind Chicago's Pizza?
It will be, let me pull my site plan up. I want to say this is mostly behind the pawn shop.
Chicago's Pizza Express.
Yeah.
Hayden Lockhart with Allied also. So, yeah, Kevin's absolutely right. So the height is at 43 feet, and that's the peak of the roof that's above the entrance. So that most of the building, I think the top of the current elevations was 37 and a half or so. You're not going to see much behind that big blue roof of the pawn shop, but I'm sure you will get a glimpse of it as you came by the entrance there.
So there will be no, if I'm thinking right, behind the body shop, it'll be over more to the east then?
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what's going to be on the west side there?
Right up here,
There are
where,
trailers there now.
here's, those trailers, I believe, are going to be removed coming in.
Those get relocated. The ones that are inhabited, the ones that are dilapidated and stuff will be removed. And we've actually got a company, or Carson Hayes has a company that's going to recycle them for the, for the materials.
Is there anything going to be built there?
No, sir.
Where will the trailers be on this picture?
The ones that are being relocated?
Yeah.
They're going to be, where's my mouse at? Over here.
So they'll be behind the Hayes Realty office.
Yeah.
Correct. And the pizza, and the pizza place too.
Okay.
So these four here are going to stay where it shows here on the plan there?
There,
I don't think
there
anything
are
on the
no,
plan's going to be here.
I'm sorry?
I think there's none of these that are going to remain on the plan, are there?
No.
These will move. These will move.
Okay.
Everything inside the footprint, will move. And then, so the current Lindsay Hayes, the little White House, the old headquarters,
Yes.
so some of them will be behind it, so here. And then there's another parcel that has trailers on it already too, that's behind the pizza place. And that runs maybe, kind of over on this side here, so on the east side of everything. So you'll see a lot less of it from State Route 46 than you do now. And of course, the whole community is going to be cleared of all the dilapidated, the old trailers that have just been there for years.
Another question I have, will Lindsay Hayes keep expanding their trailer park? Can they expand it to 8 spots over there?
And no, the only thing that we've seen, so the way it's structured, we are acquiring this parcel. We don't know what level of control we'll have over the other parcels. So the parcel that Hayden just identified where the other trailers will be, it'll be limited to that space because that's what they own. Whether or not they're gonna bring in additional trailers will depend on the capacity that that particular property has, but we're taking over a big chunk of where they could possibly have it. So the walls or the area for Governor Park are gonna be such that you won't be able to see any of the trailers.
That's what.
And the goal is that in the near future, it'll completely change. So that is really the goal of Governor Park, that it'll provide enough housing so that you don't need to have any more trailers in there. So I think right now, really, it's gonna be cleaning up of what is not even being used. Based on the numbers that we got from the current owner, we believe that it's only about 8 of the actual trailers within the Governor Park parcels that are gonna be relocated to the east side.
And if I had to guess too, I would say that the total capacity right now for where the trailers are still going to be able to be, I don't think there's probably not more than maybe 12 or 14 or something like that that could actually house sites. So by the time the 8 are moved, I think even if they did expand, they could only bring in a handful of trailers. It would not be anything major. The other thing about the site too, would you mind just backing up to the slide we were on just a moment ago?
No.
So this is a FEMA floodplain. So these trailers right now basically almost touch it, okay? They're going away. Our acquisition will make this piece of land almost useless. I mean, you couldn't do any building on it or anything else. I mean, so, it will remain green space and room for jacks to feed creek to flood.
And who owns the land next to that, on the backside of it?
Backside is Mitchell's, I think. Pat Mitchell's the ones. back on the other side of the creek.
No, it's Lansing, do you know?
Well, a lot. I don't know off the top of my head, but
Well, I'm just
50,
wondering
60
if-
acres back there.
For future reference, have they got any plans to expand units there?
I mean, that's
Do
a,
we?
Yes.
I mean,
Or
I do.
anybody.
I think not at the moment. We sort of were focused first on getting this, but there might be an opportunity in the near future within that. Again, there's certain parcels behind where we're doing that we can't really touch because of the floodplain. You're not allowed to leverage any federal resources, so it's capped at certain areas. And I believe that even for trailers to be placed in certain areas, there are a lot more restrictions now in terms of where you're relocating because of FEMA.
yeah, I mean, I can answer that. As part of the floodplain administration, they theoretically could, but they'd have to hike those things up probably 5, 10 feet, and it would be,
Where they're
Not-
relocating the trailers, is that in the floodplain?
no. But it runs real close to the south property line, so they'll be fine on that. And I'll be honest, it wouldn't surprise me to see the parcel behind it develop at some point in the future, whether it's through Allied or some other residential, but I would
Nobody
imagine.
approached you now, approached us as a town?
No, I haven't heard anything yet, but, I mean, we're running out of land. It's,
Is there any thought if the parking reduction would be insufficient? Do you have a plan to expand? Is there any possibility of expanding parking anywhere if you found a need?
I believe so, at least to the south. Is that where the floodplain is? I mean, there'll be room there. We're not really doing a lot of landscaping, but that could serve later on as an overflow. We don't anticipate there being a demand for more parking than what we already have, just based on the population and the feedback we've gotten from agencies like Area 10 and Stone Belt. So, but just with that, since you can't develop on the floodplain, if nothing else, you can temporarily use it for overflow parking.
and I'll say this, in the research I've done, parking studies for low-income senior housing usually recommend about 0.8 spots per unit, so even at 1 per unit, they're over what is normally seen. So they should not have any problems.
Is there any overflow parking? I mean, if they have a get-together or something there, is there a place for visitors to park other than where the residents have to park?
At this point right now, I'm not sure we've identified like what spots did you want?
So what I was gonna say is the spot here where we're taking these trailers off here on the western side, that is relatively level. The road obviously, and the road is quite wide too. And because on the side of the road there will be some additional, availability of parking there. It's not gonna be restricted by fire lane or anything like that, I don't believe. And then this would be, maintained as grass. So I mean, it would be okay for parking. But also, I think part of what we're looking at too is based on, our experience with some of the other low-income senior housing projects, like Kevin said and like Yvonne said, and we just haven't seen a lot of high-flying parties and things along those lines. So it's been fine, I think, for family visiting and things like that, but we just haven't seen a need in projects we've been involved in and based on other studies for a huge amount of parking for these type of projects.
Do you have a gathering room?
Yes, absolutely.
So, I mean, they could have a family reunion or something,
Absolutely.
but it'd be pretty small impact.
Absolutely.
How many elevators are in this building?
One.
I see that, it's just a gurney-size
It
elevator?
is absolutely gurney size over there, yes, sir.
So it's gonna be steps for,
Pardon me?
it's steps mostly to get to the top?
At the two ends of the building, the fire escape is steps, yeah. But we imagine that people will be using the elevator.
How big is the gurney size? I didn't see dimensions. What is?
We were actually waiting for the information from Tyson Krupp. I don't think that we got that, did we? No, okay, we don't have it yet. So the architect had the specs on had the model number and everything else, but it was, according to Tyson Krupp, was, a gurney size elevator, yes.
And that was one of the items we discussed at the
With
technical
Chief
review.
Corman, yeah.
Mhm. So that will definitely, it will be the correct size on the building plans, which we don't require at this time.
Right.
Is this metal siding? No. Is this
No,
metal?
sir, mostly it's hardy siding, the fiber cement. I think there are some portions on there that are actually a tile too, like a ceramic tile.
How big is the meeting room? Is it, you said you were having like a little,
Yeah, there's a good sized community room on there. I don't know the exact dimensions on it.
where's it at on this?
There's
It's on the
Sky.
first floor
first floor.
where all the offices are. So there'll be like sort of a kitchen. I don't have the exact numbers either, but it would be on the first floor.
We don't have a floor plan in here, do we?
There, it should be in the back.
Yep.
Right here.
Your plans.
Sorry, you got about 30 pages here.
That nice,
Community room is listed 1,100 net square feet.
There's also an outdoor deck off the second story. That's quite large also for, nicer weather.
Will the people have to go around the building to get to the elevator?
No, there's an entrance on both sides of the middle of the aisle.
just seems like one elevator, if it goes down, I mean, what's gonna happen with, the third floor apartments? Where'd you say the stairs were?
The stairs are near the ends of the L, so the furthest points away from the elevator. The elevator is relatively central.
Was that question asked, Kevin, to Mike Corman, the fire chief? If the elevator goes down, what happens?
It's off automatically in a fire.
No, but I mean, I think standard code is one elevator. I don't know of places that would have more than one.
Mike explained in tech review.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Chief Corman explained in the technical review that their elevator did meet the specifications required by the fire code, the size and everything.
And there's active fire suppression in the building too, it's sprinkled.
Will we have to, or will you have to increase the water lines there? 8-inch line. 8-inch
So we
line?
have 8-inch line, 8-inch line coming in, and the calcs are all good for it. Yes.
That was reviewed and discussed quite in depth at our technical review meeting by our water people, Brian Miller and Mike Farmer.
And Rick, we did get from Chief Corman the flow rates from that hydrant, correct? We did, okay, yeah.
And Rick, this won't add to the overflow problems with sewer?
Good question.
Yeah, because,
Well, so the existing sewer there is going to be abandoned. It'll remain for the other part of the trailer park, along with their 2-inch water line, but we'll be doing new connections to the sewer.
So if I heard you right, it'll be a 2-inch line for the trailers?
2-inch line's already there. We're not touching it. We are going to cap it because that's what comes to the rest of the trailer park, and we're going to have 8-inch line.
is any more questions from the Plan Commission? Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments? Well, seeing none, are we ready to move forward with the vote?
I'll make that motion for approval for the development case number PC 20-04 at 5665 West State Road 46.
Second.
Denise, would you do roll call, please?
Sandra Dash,
Yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert,
Yes.
David Drake,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pat Wezalowski.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
And as I said, I think this is going to be a great improvement to the areas.
Definitely.
And I feel happy that it is going to be controlled by the same people group that manage our senior citizens housing at Maple Shades and Allen, because they're beautiful facilities, well-maintained, so. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the development plan approval for a multifamily senior housing project, 47,000 square feet at 6151 North Matthews Drive. The petitioner is Hayden Lockhart on behalf of Allied Real Estate Partners LLC, case number PC 20-5.
All right, this one has a little more to it, but same general principle. Petitioner's requesting plan approval for a 50-unit senior housing complex addition. This will be a total of 4 single-story buildings as part of the Richland Senior Housing. Property is zoned R3 multifamily, so it's a permitted use. It's an extension of the existing Richland Senior Housing complex, which is located back to the southeast of here. Tech Review Committee met February 20th. Most of the comments have been addressed, not all. Spoke with Rick Kopic earlier today, and there still are a few comments that need addressed. I don't think anything serious, but they do need to be addressed in the plans. All other legal requirements have been met. In addition, the petitioner is requesting several waivers from subdivision regulations, and these are for a waiver from sidewalks and street trees along North Matthews Drive, and waiver from curbs along one side of an interior drive. And I'll let the petitioner explain why they're requesting the waiver for those. Staff is not in favor of the waivers for either the sidewalks or street trees. You got a minute? There's no problem. If the drainage isn't impacted by the curb, I don't see any reason why that one could not be approved. Staff would recommend approval of the development plan with the condition that sidewalks and street trees are built as required by code, and all other comments are addressed prior to any permits being issued. I want to go a little bit about how the waivers work for this, because this is a little different process than a variance. Kind of the same, but obviously this goes through Plan Commission, not the Board of Zoning Appeals. They can be requested at the time of site plan review, and we didn't really get around to this one until this week. There are 4 general criteria that the Plan Commission shall consider when granting a waiver. The first is that it is not detrimental to public safety, health, welfare, or general welfare, or injurious to other property. 2, except for innovative design concept, the conditions upon which the request for a waiver is based on the uniqueness of the property for which waiver is sought. And I'm sorry, I copied this straight out of our code, so it's a little run on. The third requirement is basically that it's a unique property that would suffer a hardship to the owner as distinguished from a mere inconvenience. And as with variances, financial hardship does not constitute grounds for a waiver. And finally, that it should comply substantially with provisions of the comprehensive plan. And in deciding on waivers, Plan Commission will have to make findings as to each of those 4 items. What the code says, and the reason these are waivers and not variances is because they're all within the subdivision regulations as opposed to our zoning ordinance. Oops, go back. There we go. The first section, it says that native shade trees are mandated to be planted an average of every 50 feet in the front yard, which would be the side facing Matthews. Our sidewalks just says that sidewalks are required. It goes in a little more detail on the specs of the sidewalks, and they're 5 feet wide and how deep and how thick they have to be. Curbs and gutters just says that they are supposed to be installed on each side of the paved street surface. And the curb waiver is for the interior drive. So that wouldn't be a public road, that would be a private road. Just an idea for location. This is where they're looking at building. The existing senior housing is right here. We are right here. So, I mean, it's just over the tree line from where we're at now.
Where will they enter the property?
The entrance will come off of Matthews Drive. There'll be an entrance towards the northern side, northern edge of the property, and it will wind back around. I'll show you better on the site plan. This is Matthews Drive here. Here's the driveway, and it'll come and wind back and around to the other buildings. And there'll be a connection to their existing drive that goes back into the other senior housing buildings.
Is there a reason they didn't line it up with McNeely?
There is a very severe slope coming down there, and I think there's some utility lines. I don't remember which ones, but there's a easement in either water or something. There's some sort of utilities running through there, so they would have had to move everything, and it wasn't practical to put it there. Don't have color elevations, so we have black and white. This kind of shows you, I mean, they're single-story buildings, very similar to what was built in the last phase of the Richland senior housing. So you have a good idea of what to expect. And I can go back to that later. Again, plan commission criteria, compatibility, it's permitted by right, therefore it should be compatible. Compatibility comp plan, it recommends senior and affordable housing. This checks both of those boxes. Adequate provisions for internal management of traffic. The new road functions well, connects all the buildings, connects to an existing road within the community, which is preferred. Analysis of the capacity of adjacent streets. Traffic will access directly onto North Matthews Drive. It's possible some could, depending on if they're going west, they could snake back through the senior housing and jump right onto Main Street and head out 46. Again, with the senior complexes, they don't generate as much traffic as a typical apartment complex, so it should not be significant. One of the other main uses on Matthews Drive is our utilities building, which I believe is moving sooner or later anyway, so that'll cut down on some traffic. There, God willing, will be pedestrian traffic as we have plans for a trail through there, as you'll see, or I think it was on one of the plans, the easement for the trail actually cuts through the senior housing property. Let me get back on track here. Infrastructure will be included as necessary. Stormwater and erosion control have been reviewed. I put pending comments. I think I've gotten all my comments back on that, so I think that should be all right, aside from what I got from Rick Kopic earlier, which were, God, I can't read my writing. Still need drainage calculations. The sanitary sewer is required to have a minimum of 3 foot of cover over the top of the pipe. Right now, they don't have enough shown on their plans, so they'll need to update that. And they need an outside drop manhole detail. And these are things they can add to their plans pretty easily. That could be approved as a condition. We just need to see them in paper. Allocation of streets, parks, and so forth. No public roads, and as I said, the easement for a future multi-use path is included, and it kind of winds around the northeast, northern border of their property. Adequate provision for green space and landscaping. That's been reviewed and approved, since we don't really have landscaping standards with the exception of the street trees. and that will be depending on the waiver request. Buffering is not required. No limestone structures are in the way. Pathways, trails are covered. Sidewalks, as I mentioned, have not been included along North Matthews Drive, and that's also going to be subject to a waiver request. And just kind of a few pictures showing the property location. It's pretty rough to put 4 buildings on, but they've managed to find a way to get them on there. And a few more, and that is all I have. You will need to have, I would guess, separate votes on the waivers and the actual development plan approval. And with that, I can answer any questions and then turn it over to the applicant to explain more about the waiver request and the project in general.
Are these only 1 bedroom?
I believe most, if not all, are. And I don't remember off the top of my head if that's true. Nah, you know what? I think they're. I don't know.
Is this the same as Lindsay Hazen's, 55 and older?
It's gonna be the same as whatever the other Richland housing is. Which I thought that was 62 and older.
62
Okay.
and plus. So nothing is changing for Richland. It will continue to be the same board of directors and the same regulations that they currently have.
Are they all 1 bedroom?
There's a few of them. They're primarily 1 bedroom though.
Kevin, what did you say was missing from this plan?
What we're looking for were sidewalks and street trees along North Matthews Drive, and the interior drive only had a curb on one side, but that had to do with the drainage. So there was a reason for that, and I think that works out, but.
So looking on the GIS, I don't see any sidewalks at all on Matthews Drive. I know you got to start somewhere, but can we somehow make a condition that if that develops and sidewalks go in the other locations, that sidewalks have to be put in at that point?
I mean, and that's something that the planning commission can condition.
Because, I mean, I've never been a big fan of sidewalks that don't go anywhere.
Sure.
I mean.
Oh, we worked awful hard with David, awful hard as a plan commission to get sidewalks in, and you have to start somewhere.
Right, I'm saying make it a condition that if other sidewalks come in, that then those sidewalks have to be put in. If we can do that, that's what I was getting at.
What happens if it's 20 years from now before that? Darla, can we stipulate that, or?
Well, I think you should be specific about, when you say other sidewalks go in where, and you're right, 20 years from now, you may have trouble enforcing it, but I suppose you could make it a condition, but.
And I agree, it does look odd. I mean, when you go out Hart Street or Vernal, you see sidewalks that stop and start. But after seeing the ones on 46 and how much they're used, I really hate to not have them there.
Why, what's the reason for not having them there?
One of the reasons was we were trying to incentivize is what the city is trying to do too in terms of the trail and having access to that. And because there are some steep slopes when you're coming in through there, is just not, it was more of a safety issue that we were looking at, and just wanted to make sure that people were doing the walking within the trail, which the elevations have already been considered, and to also use the facilities within there or have access.
What
Because
page?
normally Matthews has been used more with like car traffic versus pedestrians.
Well, 46 is pretty hard traffic. There's
Yeah,
sidewalks on both sides.
But there's no shopping or anything on Matthews.
There might be.
No, there could be in the future, I understand, yeah, I get it. But the other thing we were looking at too is just, I mean, to be honest, we looked at Matthews also, we said, look, there's no sidewalks anywhere here. So it didn't seem like to us that it was something that might be necessary. And we did try and incorporate into the plans for the buildings that there's sidewalks all around. the buildings themselves.
What page shows the trail?
There's just an easement on it. Let's see. If you had it up a minute ago.
Easement
You wanna
for
put it
our
back up?
proposed trail grant. I'd just like to see where it is in the property.
It's right,
Yeah, that's the easement.
it's right up here, and it kind of trails around and then back over across Matthews. So it runs, and there's going to be a connection at one of these two, off one of the two buildings. I don't remember which one.
Correct. I think right where you're pointing was the one
I
we're
think-
talking about.
I think
the
it
winding
was.
Stairs, yeah. But that's not an issue.
The trail from that plan would go on up north to come in the back side of our,
It actually come out right here.
yeah.
How's the sight distance of the proposed entrance off of Matthews? I mean, there is a lot of stone there, head up the road, and then the solid waste station does create a lot of traffic.
It's actually, as I was out there getting pictures, where the entrance at, it's probably about the best location you're going to get out there, is it's close enough to the curb, you can see people coming from the north.
Can you see the bridge?
I don't remember if you could see the bridge or not, but you could definitely see the cars coming. I mean, it's about as far, I mean, it could go a little bit farther, but it's based on elevation, it's about as far north as they can put it.
And the waivers were for the sidewalk on Matthews and what else?
Street trees on Matthews and the curb on the interior drive, just on one side.
If there was sidewalks on Matthews, how far would that be from the development, from the actual footprint of the buildings?
It's fairly close. It'd be the other side of the parking you see there, right, in our access to it.
So it'd be advantageous for the senior citizens to take a walk. They wouldn't have to walk down through multi-areas to get to the sidewalk, am I correct? I mean, you said what you said is they're close, pretty close to it.
To Matthews, but the sidewalks right now come all the way around the property. In terms
It would
of
just be
access.
easier access for that one building, but not necessarily for the other ones. So most of the walkability is actually more inner, because that's where a lot of the elevating has been done.
But where would they go after they get to Matthews?
Turn around and go back, just like they do at the
They get onto your
trail to go nowhere.
They get onto your trail.
The proposed trail will also have a crossing at Matthews, a crosswalk. So theoretically, they could walk all, if we get the trail grant, they could walk all the way to Main Street and go downtown.
That's the only thing I was thinking.
So if it crosses Matthews, if we don't have a sidewalk all along through there, does it go straight across right at the entrance to the place to where,
Yeah, I think
or would
the
it
trail jogged a little. Do you remember how we did that?
It changed
Yeah, that's the
quite a few
problem.
times. I don't remember what the last one looks like.
And we would be happy to stipulate on the, we're not, for where the easement is, I mean, we did that based on the drawing, the CAD files that we were provided that your engineer, contract engineer had put together. And we'd be happy to stipulate that, I mean, if that needs to move a little bit, the easement or something, that's not an issue from our perspective. We're happy to have it, we hope it happens.
and what's the reason you're taking the curb out?
The curb is a drainage issue on that side. There's a couple spots on on the site where they have had pretty persistent drainage problems, and we've tried to address them as best we can, not only through our retention, but also through the way we direct the water flow throughout the whole site. We're trying to avoid some of the problems that have been continuous there for many years, even though it's not technically a flood zone. There's places where water pools, and it just doesn't seem to collect. It just doesn't seem to ever go away. And there was also an issue there on the drainage, on an actual drain, right? There was an existing, was it a 24 or 30-inch drain that we were tying into and potentially doing something with.
Can I answer your question real quick about where you would enter the
Sure.
trail? It would, we had the entrance right to the west, right beside their entrance to their project.
I think I've found this page now and I see it.
Okay.
It's number 15 here, or this 15 feet wide and the road. What's the distance between your road behind Building 1 and Matthews Drive? Is that, how many feet?
Can you repeat that?
Pardon me?
The distance between your roadway behind Building 1 and Matthews Drive?
Bill, do you have a good estimate on that?
Roughly about 60 feet or so.
It's 76 feet from the edge of the building to the edge of their driveway, and from the edge of the, or no, that's, oh, is that wrong?
Well,
No, it's 76 feet to the property line. I think it's about 15 feet from the property line to the edge of the road, so it's, the edge of the building's probably 90 feet from Matthews. The driveway's probably around 50 feet to Matthews.
Is this building 90 foot long? This one, what do you think?
God, I don't remember. It's like
I think
a
it's
little over
more than that.
8,000 square feet, so.
Yeah, it's almost 14,000 square feet, and I believe it was approximately like 105 or something was the measurement. And I'm in the ballpark, but not 100% sure.
What's the reasoning for the tree waiver on that
We'd
strip?
be happy to stipulate to the trees. I think what they did when they were looking at that was, I think they were looking at if there's no sidewalk, maybe there wasn't the need for the additional landscaping or something, but I mean, I don't know that we, certainly from a developer standpoint, we didn't look at that and say, oh, no trees there. So, I mean, we'd be happy to stipulate to the
On
trees.
this curve waiver, Rick Kopic, is he agreeable to this for the drainage? Our engineer?
Let Rick answer that.
Excuse me. Rick Copic, Vine Panio. Yeah, I mean, the road slopes all to the interior, so the curb that's not there is the curb on the outside edge. So it doesn't really do anything. I mean, usually it's used to direct water when your road's crowned in the middle. This road all slopes one direction.
Okay.
You know, a couple of things on the, you know, you're talking about the sidewalk on Matthews. So from the edge of the drive down to Matthews, I don't know which one's building. Building 1, from the edge of the drive opposite Building 1, it's probably 12 feet down from that edge of that road. So you're not just going to walk over the edge of the road down to the sidewalk. Bloomington used to have what they called I don't know if they still do or not, years ago when I worked there, but they had a permanent sidewalk variance, which was that, you know, you could, it was, construction of the sidewalk was delayed, I think up to 20 years, unless someone built on either adjacent property next to yours. I mean, to the north of this, you've got Bobby Stone, which is probably not going to be building any sidewalk for anybody soon. And then the other ones are private residences, I think, up the rest of the road. So unless something happens with those properties, you're not going to get a sidewalk connection in there. One of the reasons they probably don't show it on there either is it's, like I say, it'd be pretty hard to construct. You'd have to put the sidewalk in and then build a retaining wall, and you also have some drainage issues there because you'd have to install some storm inlets across Matthews to take the drainage away from it. So there's multiple issues on why there's not a sidewalk designed in there.
Will this hinder, I don't know if this is a Darla question or whoever, will this hinder our future when we ask for a sidewalk and they say, well, wait a minute, there on Matthews, you didn't have one? Will we have a problem saying, hey, you've got to have a sidewalk?
Well, as long as you justify the waiver in this case, I guess I don't know how to answer your question. Yes, if you decide to grant the waiver for the sidewalk, somebody in the future coming down the road is going to say just that, what you said, Pat. Hey, you didn't make them build a sidewalk. But it's going to be decided on a case-by-case basis on the facts and given the landscaping and, you know, where the developments are situated. So
We're in
As
the
long as
right.
you can, well, as long as you can justify it, like Kevin said, there's 3 or 4 or 5 things you have to consider. So as long as you justify and make appropriate findings as to why you are granting the waiver, the next person coming down the road would also have the same requirements. They would also have to justify why they do not want to build a sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Where are the laundry facilities, this unit?
All the units will be provided washer and dryers,
Each, okay.
correct, individually inside. There's additional public laundry facilities already in throughout the community, but in this particular one, we're providing washers and dryers.
That's nice.
You know what was funny? In the comments we got though from some of the citizens at Richland currently, some of them really liked the public laundry facility because that's the social part during the day, you know? So, I mean, it'll have both. It also has quite a large community room too, another one. So there's several already on the property. It'll have one there too. So, I mean, I think that, you know, we continued on with it even when we got the other feedback to say we were just going to go ahead and provide the machines regardless. So, I mean, that's the way we're going to keep on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
When do you think all this will be built? Like, how long will it take
So-
approximately?
We have a couple of issues right now we're working with. I'll let Yvonne address those real quick in terms of getting the project closed.
So we are looking at a financing plan for rental housing tax credits, but not as complicated as it has been for Governor Park. That'll be leveraged with other loans. Because of the financing, we're doing this new construction and also the rehabilitation of the existing units just to continue improving that area. We were hoping that we could close by June and start the construction in July. Because of some complexities that we have with USDA Rural Development and HUD and the subsidies that the existing properties have, it's gonna push it out slightly and to close potentially in October. We're trying to push HUD and USDA to give us those approvals before then, but now that would, we would anticipate at that point to be completed with the new construction and the rehabilitation January 1st of 2022. But we would start construction, if not in October, depending on how the weather is, we'd be starting by January 1st or between October and February. October 2020 and February 2021. And we anticipate approximately a 15-month construction period. That'll entail everything, the rehab with the new construction.
So after the 15-month, approximately it'll be all completed. It's not going to be piecemealed in.
Correct.
No, yeah, the way the funding is and everything and all the approvals, it's for the whole project. Yes.
So no one will take occupancy until the entire project's complete?
For this piece, correct, right, yeah.
Kevin,
Yeah.
in your staff recommendations, what I got out of it was you didn't really want to grant the waiver for the sidewalk. So can you share your feelings about it?
Well, at the time, I wrote staff report, and, I mean, we weren't even sure if there was going to be a waiver request, because I hadn't had the revised plans yet, so I didn't know what was going to be on there and what the reasoning for it was. So it was kind of hard to make much of a recommendation one way or another, or if there even was going to be a waiver.
Are you more comfortable now that they've explained it?
I get it. I still would like to see sidewalks and street trees.
Said you would or would not?
Would.
Yeah. Well, I think the residents of Building 1 would appreciate some street trees between them and Matthews Drive.
Happy to stipulate on the street trees. Like I said, I don't think from a development perspective that we caught that. I mean, you know, the fact that they hadn't in the landscape plan addressed that, you know, I didn't even cross our radar screen to that point. So, I mean, I've got absolutely no issue with adding that piece to it.
Well, I can understand the restraints that you face with the topography and a retaining wall that is very expensive. And you are gracious enough to allow us a easement for a trail through. So, I mean, there will be a walking area with the trail. I am all for sidewalks because Ellettsville doesn't have a lot of them, and it took us a long time to get that in our code to try to enforce it. So I particularly hate waiving it, but I do understand your issues there in a short space and slopes. And okay, anyone else have any comments? I'm going to open to the audience to see if have any questions. Okay, is there anyone from the audience that has any questions or remarks? A lot of good listeners. Okay, well, Kevin, are you comfortable with us proceeding to vote on the waivers?
Hey, that's your call.
Well, you're our guide, so.
No, I mean, that's,
We have to stipulate what you mentioned earlier with Rick. The agency had a couple situations.
yeah, I would like the approval of the overall development plan conditioned on the rest of the tech review comments being addressed prior to any permits being issued. I mean, there's no reason they can't. I just want to get that on the record.
And that was your stormwater and some,
We need drainage calculations. We need an update on sanitary sewer covering, like dirt over top of it, so they weren't deep enough, and some detail on a manhole.
okay, so the first waiver was for the sidewalk.
Put that slide back up that lists what we have to, findings we have to make.
Yes.
Okay, I would open for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the waiver for the curbs as requested in the internal drives, and find that it will not be detrimental to public safety, health, or welfare, or injurious to anyone else's property. The waiver is based on the slopes that the drive will have, and the fact that the curb will retain water instead of allow for the water to move throughout the property according to the drainage plan, and that those are caused by the physical surroundings of the property beyond just a financial hardship, and that it does comply with the provisions of the comprehensive plan.
That is one long motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Denise, roll call, please.
Sandra Hash,
Yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert,
Yes.
David Drake,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pat Wesolowski.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, now we deal with the waiver on the street trees. David, do you want to?
I thought you said you didn't really care about the street trees, so.
Waive that.
Yeah, I would like to see the street trees leave,
So,
put back in the plan.
Yeah, we'll withdraw the waiver for the street.
okay. All right, that just leaves the big one. The
Can
waiver
I
for
say one
this.
more thing about sidewalks? real quick?
Yes.
Sorry.
Please do.
So one of the other things too is remember also, there are sidewalks throughout the community right now, and this will adjoin to those as well. So in terms of actual places to walk and things like that, it definitely is very accessible from all those perspectives. So, in your consideration, I think it has more to do with, the waiver and how it affects Matthews in particular. That's, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion considering the waiver on the sidewalks?
I will make a motion that we waive the sidewalks to a time in which the property to the south or the north develops further. And that's based on the fact that it will not be a detriment to public safety, health, or welfare because there are no sidewalks in that area currently. It is, the conditions are based on the uniqueness of the property due to the fact that the topography there is steep, and it would be a 12-foot drop from building 1 down to the sidewalk. Also, the fact that there are currently sidewalks available by walking south through the complex down to State Road 46, and that there will also a future trail planned that will go right through this property that will allow access down to downtown. And this is due to the particular physical surroundings, the grade of the property and its location, and that it's not due to solely financial hardship, and that it complies with the provisions of the comprehensive plan.
Okay, Dave, could we go back to your first comment that you'd like to see a waiver of the sidewalk requirement until the time that property to the south or north develops further? So when you say develop further, you mean?
Changes from its current status. In other words, the property to the south is a residential property. If it becomes a multifamily property or a commercial property at some point and we require sidewalks, then we would require sidewalks for this property as well.
Okay.
Same to the north.
And clarification again on how long is that enforceable?
Until staff forgets about it.
And we'll all be dead
So
by
tomorrow.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, motion's made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second's been made. Denise, would you do a roll call?
Sandra Hash,
I want to talk for just 1 second. It all makes good sense when David says it, so I'm going to vote yes.
I thought it was gonna be longer than
No, just for a second, just for a second.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert,
Yes.
David Drake,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pat Wesolowski,
Yes.
motion carried.
And I would kind of like to ask the developer, I mean, are you good with this waiver? Because what happens 10 years from now if these properties start developing? I mean, are you guys good with putting in sidewalks then, or?
Yeah, I think one of the things we're gonna have to do is, we'll have to, and, you know, if you wanna make a note of this too, we won't be the owner of this project. We'll be the developer, and we'll be involved in the construction piece of it. So the Richland board will have to vote on it, but if you don't mind making that, you know, subject to us getting back to you with the record of that vote, et cetera, I think that's fine. Right? Dennis?
Well, I'm interested. But I think, just to add to that, I think the board would, and I don't want to speak on behalf, but just based on what we've seen, really, again, we go back to the sloping. If there is development there, we assume that the topography will change, and therefore the sidewalks would be necessary to have easy access for the seniors who live there, as opposed to pose a safety concern. And I think the Richland board has always been amenable to doing whatever the city is requiring them to do, as long as it doesn't provide any challenges for its current residents. So I think if it gives them access to other services and amenities, and there's other developments and it'll be required, they'd certainly support it. But I think it would just be more of that safety issue that we would ask that the city consider when new development comes in.
Sure, I understand that.
Once again, I think we'll all be long dead before
Sure.
the property is developed.
And thank you for your consideration.
Mhm.
Okay, let's don't comment on that. Okay, we're ready for a motion for the development plan approval.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the development plan for the multifamily senior housing project at 6151 North Matthews Drive, case number PC 20-05.
You got conditions on that?
I was going to say, and on the condition that the comments by the Technical Review Committee have been addressed before any permits are issued, and the petitioner agrees to install street trees along North Matthews Drive. Is that fair? Does that give you what you need? Okay. Is that fair?
That sounds good.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Second.
Denise, roll call?
Who seconded?
I did, Terry did.
Okay, thanks. Sandra Hash,
Yes.
Terry Baker,
Yes.
Don Calvert,
Yes.
David Drake,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Pat Wizalowski.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, and I really appreciate having the senior citizens at one level versus 3 levels. That just bothers me, and that's why I hesitated on voting positive for the Lindsay Hayes area there. And I really thank you for going to 1 level for senior citizens, because there's a couple up here that are senior citizens, and stairs are not the answer. So thank you, and I vote yes.
Motion carried.
And I want to say that I have appreciated the condition that the current senior citizen housing has been maintained in, and I see no reason that this one will not follow in that same path. So I think even without the sidewalk, it's still going to be a very nice asset to our community, and I thank the senior citizen group for their willingness to venture out and make more availability for the seniors on their waiting list.
Is there more land there to put more senior citizens?
Oh, there's another 7 acres
An additional?
that's a
7
little
acres?
farther up, or, yeah, kind of northwest that runs up the side. It's pretty hilly too.
Yeah.
But I think that
Hilly.
they own that as well.
They do?
Yep.
And I did want to say one comment to Pat. My grandmother on my husband's side lived out in a senior citizens complex on Pete Ellis Drive that was 3 or 4 stories, and the elevator was great, and she never had a single complaint about it, and it worked out fine. So hopefully it'll be the same here.
I have a complaint in my house. And this is only 13 steps.
But you don't have an elevator.
Well, I know. I can't afford an elevator.
Okay, next on our agenda is the planning department update.
Not much. Building code's still under review. We have hired our building and stormwater inspector, who started on Monday. And so he's getting acclimated, and that's most of our excitement right now.
Who is the building inspector?
Dan Durheimer. He's used to work at IU. He's a lot of experience with stormwater, some with building. I think he's going to do a really good job.
Great.
And I don't know if we'll have anything for next month or not. We haven't received anything yet, and the deadline's next week.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
next item is privilege of the floor. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on any items that are not on the agenda? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion
No.
carries.